I was going to ask you guys though, right now since wild card already wrapped up.
Super wild card.
Do you who cares? Super mid card. Do you guys see coaching changes in Philadelphia and Dallas, both NFC East?
At least
Because you already have the Washington already is going to get a head coach. I saw a sign of a fan in the stands, and it was like "Fire Sirianni." I'll go with my take first, and
They're not patient.
Yeah, but I'll go with my take first, and then you guys can go in. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you fire Sirianni. I understand this was kind of like, an underwhelming season and everything else and the hype and the yada, yada, yada. I think more than anything, it was bad coordinators. That's what I think the problem was. He just got it wrong at the coordinator spot. You could tell, Troy Aikman's not right a lot, but by God, was he on one today because he was talking about that, how they really miss Shane Steichen, how, as he was receiving so much blitz, they had no answer for quick routes or anything else, and it was ridiculous. Like, I think coordinators is the issue. Jailer's good last year, bad this year, and someone needs to get in there and coach him up a little bit better because there's still a lot of things of his that I don't like. Some of his tendencies. I think Sirianni, if you look, the body of work speaks for itself. I think he's only been there 3 years, if I remember right. First year, make the playoffs. I think they're 10-8 or 9-8 or whatever stupid thing.
Yeah,
Wild
I think
card.
they were 9-8. Yeah.
Wild card round. Overperformed in his first year. Second year, they go to the Super Bowl, and in my opinion, were robbed. It is what it is. Came up short. It is what it is. Then this year, you win 11 games. And obviously the NFL had their daggers on him because they got rid of Big Tom or Big Dom. With Big Dom, they were 10-1.
That's the problem.
Then they go 1-6 down the stretch. So you do that math. But in my opinion, I like Sirianni. I think he brings an edge to the team. I just think he got the coordinators wrong, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. So I would have 100%. Fire McCarthy. I don't think McCarthy and Sirianni have had this similar, stints so far on their respective teams. I think the Cowboys are a bigger disappointment, honestly, because either way, teams that make it to the Super Bowl, whether you win or lose, usually aren't back in the playoffs anyway the next year. So, that's just my opinion. I don't think.
I think this is more like. I think I'd go with my veteran players on this and be like, well, what do you like? I think it'd be too hasty to fire Sirianni, but I think changes do need to happen. I just 100%. Don't know what. I just don't know what they're gonna do. What changes can be made? I mean, coordinators obviously are gonna be the first to go, but I think I know Dan's not gonna like this. I think if they're gonna fire the DC, I think Patricia needs to go too. I think they kick both of their asses out.
I didn't say anything about Patricia. Yeah, fire.
No,
Patricia.
I know. Then the OC, I don't know what they're gonna want to do with that, but I think they need to do something. And if they're gonna clean both OC jobs, they need to do that. But
they played with no passion. They played with no heart.
Yeah, the key also is trying to get Jason Kelce. I think they need to try and run it back with Jason Kelce at least one more time.
Yeah,
because he was tearing up on the sideline. I don't remember him tearing up all that much last year in the Super Bowl. I feel like he kind of felt like, you know what, I have one more in me. Yeah. I've listened to their podcast a little bit more this year. At times it gets like you just can't listen to it, but he says that sometimes it's really hard. Like he has to do a lot to his body to get it going to be able to play on Sundays. Travis said that this year, especially also, that it's taken his body a lot to try and get to that point as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jason decides, hey, you know what, let me give it one more go. That's another year of training camp, another year of practices, another year of 17-game season, and then another possibly 3 or 4 playoff games. But I think I don't know what you guys think, but I just think firing him would be too. I think it's too. After 3 years of playoffs, I think it's too
premature.
Yeah.
I'll go off of that, and I think I'll kind of echo what Vic said earlier. Like, I honestly think like it was more of a Howie Roseman problem this year because they did go 10-1, and yeah, it was an ugly kind of way to get there, but they were winning these close games, and that head coaching matters there. And the problem with he maybe made some bad hires with the coordinators. I get that, and it's supposed to be a feel out year, but a lot of guys left in free agency on the defensive side, and like they probably already had an idea, like, hey, this secondary got older. You're missing. You don't like your linebackers are pretty thin. You lost Javon Hargraves. CJ Garner-Johnson. So people left. Even TJ Edwards was a good linebacker for the Bears. So
that defensive tackle also didn't. The kid out
yeah,
of Georgia,
Jordan Davis didn't do
yeah,
much.
yeah,
Jane
yeah.
Carter did.
They say he's overweight. Also, that like he hasn't been able to get his weight under
I
control.
remember a lot of Chargers fans wanted him a couple of years ago too.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that hasn't panned out. Usually these guys have. I think what Howie Roseman did was like, I don't want to say cocky, but like he usually has a way of drafting the best player available, and when your number is called, you're ready, and you go and you go. And these guys haven't really picked it up like a Jordan Davis and a Kobe Dean. And the secondary is pretty much brand new, especially at the safety spot. So that was an issue there. And then they're a little older on the offensive line, and they weren't as good as last year. But they were getting it done with AJ Brown being a monster, and they were getting it done with the tush push. That's all they had to go 10-1 and some good calls by Nick Sirianni. But after that, it really fell apart. And so I think you guys are on right here to say, hey, go to the playoffs 2 years. You overperformed 2 years. You're the reigning NFC champions. Maybe it's fatigue. Maybe it's bad coordinators. Maybe it's lack of defense. I say do it one more time.
Yeah, I'm with you guys in terms of that Nick Sirianni deserves to be back. The problem is Howie Roseman. We've seen this with Doug Peterson. He fired him after they won the Super Bowl. And as Fernando mentioned, he just gets impatient, and he's not going to look at himself and say, "I'm the one that messed up here." He's going to have somebody to blame. So if you're going to give at least Nick Sirianni another shot at this, you're gonna have to fire those coordinators and let him choose another two. Now, if they struggle next season, then you fire Nick Sirianni. But I've been saying it. I just, like I said, I'm not hating on Howie Roseman. He's been, he won a Super Bowl, thanks to that run that they had. But I just feel like he gets way too much credit, and there's other dudes that do way more, and I just don't understand. I feel like we need to be more, you know, we need to focus on those guys like the Brad Holmes, the Les Needs. Like I get it, like Les Need was the F those picks, but he's been able to prove that he can do that with other talent. And I just go back to it. I'm with you guys. I think Nick Sirianni is a good coach. Like one of the things that we haven't talked about, one thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about with the head coaching cycle. I'm starting to hear that teams want to go after like the Dan Campbell type of guys, like the Antonio Pierce, guys who are leaders. Like people are done with the whole coordinator thing, who take one side of the ball instead of concentrating on being a manager, and which we've seen with Dan Campbell. And so I think that's part of the thing that you're gonna see in this coaching cycle. You're going to see a lot of more dudes being hired who are leaders, and they're going to go away from the whole coordinator thing. And yeah, and which I'm surprised then that you're a big Mike McDaniel fan, just because he kind of fits that mold of those play callers. But
yeah,
yeah,
I just give him credit. 'Cause I mean, he has basically a scarecrow out there, quarterback, and have him an MVP conversation. I think he's very creative. I think he has the right philosophy. He has a hell of a team. I just and I took flack for this. When the Chargers played Miami, Tua's not that guy, dude. He spent too much time.
Dolphins fans were crapping.
He spent too much time over the weekend. Trying to, keep receipts and going through all the stupid things. And apparently he didn't watch tape for Sunday's game or whenever the hell they played. But yeah, like going back to your point, you need to hire leaders. We've seen what the nerds like Josh McDaniels, some of these guys, like everybody forgets. Football is, that type of game where if you're going to run through a wall for the coach and the players, you're going to be unstoppable. You're going to be pretty damn good. Like, you have got to believe in the message being handed down by the head coach, because we've seen some of these teams that don't believe, and you get all this talk that or coach speak, as Alberto likes to say, and no one buys it. You can see it. Players read through that a mile away, dude. So I'm glad,
and that's why I'm like still waiting for one of these reporters to like tell us what Mike Vrabel's interest is. Like, does he want to coach this year? Or does he want to sit it out, or what?